Sosua and head to my second destination on this 2-week adventure. I will be driving about 2 hours up into a more hilly, mountainy area. I'm a bit nervous for what the roads are going to be like. I knew it was a risk deciding to drive when I came here. I read a lot of horror stories. I read a lot of not so horrible stories. I really weighed the pros and cons of having to rent from somebody or get a ride every time I needed a ride versus renting a vehicle. And ultimately I decided to drive myself. I've told a couple people here that, and they've both reacted in ways that are like, oh, have definitely sparked some fear. So we'll see how it goes. I've driven a little bit so far, but while I've been here in Sosua, I've really been staying pretty low key. I ventured out and walked around the little neighborhood that I'm in a little bit. Other than that, I've gone to the beach and back. I feel like I've really been here to sort of adjust to just being in this kind of climate and this culture on this land, recover from my travels. I had to deal with some bank related stuff and trying to figure out how I could call an organization in the United States who doesn't use an app like WhatsApp was really complicated. So I've been really resting and kind of prioritizing a lot of those details. It also is energy draining to walk around here because I have to be constantly on guard because I am somebody who stands out here and who garners attention. Therefore, there's a little bit of catcalling that happens if I'm just walking around in the streets. If I'm on the beach, there's people who are constantly approaching and trying to sell things. And, that is the situation of a country like this that has been really financially desecrated. People are living in perpetual poverty. And so I understand why those kinds of dynamics play out. And yet at the same time, being somebody who is highly sensitive, it can be very overwhelming. I feel like I can't totally relax when I'm in public in this area because I have to be kind of constantly prepared for, is somebody going to approach me? And I feel like I've already seen my neurodivergence create some complications for me. When I first arrived, I went to a grocery store and somebody helped me carry out my groceries. And it was this moment of I don't know, am I supposed to tip you? I should have. I didn't because I was just panicked. And, then I had this guilt and shame spiral afterwards of well, this person, whatever, I should have done this. But it was as I was reflecting and kind of processing that experience afterwards, because that has happened a couple of times while I've been here. I think it really is my neurodivergence. It's genuinely I don't know how I'm supposed to respond being in a totally new culture, in a totally new country for the first time. I don't have anybody to tell me some of these nuances right now. And so there's a realness to being overwhelmed in the moment and not even knowing how to figure out the information I need to figure out to let me know what I'm supposed to do, what's socially expected of me in this situation. And that's a little bit of what gets sparked too, because I am neurodivergent, I'm on the autistic spectrum. There are certain social nuances that I learn through observation. I'm really good at learning through observation, but when I'm plucked and I put myself into a totally new environment, I haven't had time to observe the context and the culture and what's expected of me in a certain way. And trying to learn that on the spot can really activate my nervous system and just I can't always do that. I can't process that quickly in the moment, especially when I'm face to face in an exchange with somebody. I'm processing so much other information, especially here I'm translating from Spanish to English in my mind and trying to figure out how do I communicate what I want to say. So there's just a lot of moving pieces that I've noticed has just been kind of a complicated part of this experience, and it's something I knew I was going to be working on balancing while I was here. I really like this little hotel that I'm staying at. It's a long-term apartment type of thing, so I can make my food in here and feel as though I have this safe little nest to come home to. I've befriended one of my neighbors as well, who's an Italian gentleman who comes here quite often and actually owns some land here. He works with fungi, which is very interesting. And so he travels the world. He's here to collect fungi and do whatever people do with fungi, study fungi. And he was telling me about what it was like to be here during COVID. You know, the Dominican Republic, it's an island, and so there's part of the island is the Dominican, part of the island is Haiti. And so there's like an interesting, I'm not going over to the Haiti side at all, I'm barely exploring the Dominican side. And there's like an interesting tension between the cultures because, again, this is an impoverished island. I don't know the history, but I believe the United States has played a role in desecrating the economy here too. I know we have done that in another of other countries, and I feel like I've heard something about that here as well. Anyways, he was telling me about, you know, it's illegal for Haitians to cross the border and come into the Dominican Republic, but of course they do that because on the Haiti side, he was telling me it's very dangerous. And you know, this is like a little bit of what I knew, but I'm not super familiar with this island. He was saying that, you know, there's no government, so people are kind of like in control of the place as they have power and control to be able to do so. So he was saying like certain streets belong to certain groups of people, certain other streets belong to certain groups of people. They protect with weapons. People end up being killed quite a bit over there. There's not financial opportunities. There's not a way for people to make money and have a decent life. It's very hard over there. And so, you know, Haitians cross the border and then are taken back across the border and then cross the border again and taken back across the border. And so, you know, we have some of that in the United States too, people trying to find a way. It doesn't seem easy on the Dominican side either. There's a lot of poverty here, a lot of people who are kind of exclusively reliant upon tourists, but there's more opportunity. And he was talking about during COVID times when everything was shut down and there was no opportunity for work, there was no opportunity for money, tourists weren't able to come, so everybody was just like locked down in place. He said the government would bring rice and beans and give them away to Dominicans who had papers that could prove they were, you know, a citizen of this country. And the Haitians starved. The Haitians didn't get anything from the government. And he even said when there was like a curfew, and so there were time periods when people weren't allowed to be in the streets, that if somebody was like breaking into stores for survival, the police would just kill them. And like that was just the normal way of dealing with it. And then he was talking about like on the news the next day, the police would be like bravely explaining like, yes, we were able to kill 2 people in the night last night, like as though it was some sort of badge of honor and not people's lives that are being taken. So it's just a really complicated area, and it's complicated to be in a situation like this. I don't love the way that tourism can sometimes feel like a hierarchy in countries like this, where it puts people in like a position of servitude almost. There's something about that feels pretty dehumanizing to me. And at the same time, when this is the only option that so many people here have been given, what are people to do? So I don't know, it's a complicated, my experience in cities like this is complicated. Like I sat at the beach yesterday and did a traditional tourist thing of having a cocktail, and that's just not generally how I enjoy traveling. It's not generally, there's something about that feels exploitive to me. So I don't know, it's complicated because it's also a beautiful experience, and that's a big reason people come here. And the economy, that's what the economy in this country is dependent upon right now. So I don't know the answers, but these are some of the feelings and emotions I'm having as I prepare to wrap up my time here in Sosua and travel on to my next destination in Las Montañas.